Mr. Depp, if you could please take a look at the stack of articles in front of you.
Yes, it's a stack of hit pieces generated by Miss Heard's publicity team.
This is an article from November 15th, 2014, entitled, "Apparently Drunk Johnny Depp Cut Off at Hollywood Film Awards Ceremony," correct?
That's what it says, yes, sir.
And the next article is an article from May 7th, 2016. It's entitled, "Johnny Depp, Friends and Family Seriously Concerned About Him. Here's Why."
Yes, how did they know?
An article entitled, "Where Did It All Go Wrong for Johnny Depp? After a string of flops and a ton of bad press, Johnny Depp's star power looks as wobbly as Jack Sparrow on a plank." Did I read that right?
You read that very well.
Did I read that right?
You certainly did, Mr. Rottenborn.
Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Did I read that right?
You continued to read them right, yes.
And you were drinking pretty heavily.
Were you there?
It's my question to you, sir.
No, I wasn't drinking that heavily. It's a definition of what you define as heavily, sir.
You poured yourself a mega-pint of red wine, correct?
A Mega-Pint? I poured myself a large glass of wine. I thought it necessary. Every day I would come home and there would be a glass of whiskey waiting for me.
And you would sometimes drink whiskey in the mornings too, right?
Isn't happy hour any time? I once gave Marilyn Manson a pill so that he would stop talking so much. So, yes, I did assault a couple of cabinets, but I did not touch Miss Heard.
What was the photograph of Mr. Depp?
It was a photograph of the bed, our bed, and on my side of the bed was human fecal matter. So I understood why it wasn't a good time to go down there. It was so outside, it was so bizarre and so grotesque that I could only laugh.
And then you went in the house and saw Mr. Depp in the foyer, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Mr. Depp was trying to urinate in the foyer, wasn't he?
No.
Mr. Depp had his penis out of his pants, didn't he?
I think I would remember
Relevance.
seeing Mr. Depp penis.
I'll allow it. Next question.
And you were trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Welcome to the Beau Show. Previously, I covered the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial because it raises many issues about our current society, even a society as celebrity obsessed as we have become. But while many were quick to just dismiss the Depp Heard cases, another chapter of absurd celebrity feuds, I think it's worth actually paying attention to. Because this is not just a mere lover's spat that went wrong. This was something far deeper. It was about ruining a reputation, about preying upon weakness, about twisting things around. It was about psychological phenomena some of us may have even experienced in our own relationships. We have seen things like this, but not on such a grand scale. And rarely do you ever see a $50 million defamation lawsuit, much less a $100 million countersuit betwixt two actors and lovers. Defamation suits are hard to prove anyway. You have to be able to prove your damages. And that's harder than you think that it is. Plus, with all the video and audio recordings that we have these days, that is, if you can actually catch the person in the act, you have more proof and insight as to what was actually going on inside the relationship. Now, during the trial, we saw videos of Depp drunk as a skunk, throwing things at cabinets, pouring himself the infamous Mega-Pint of wine that he felt was appropriate. And we also saw Amber Heard admit to hitting him and downplaying it. We saw her snarky smile at the end of the videos she filmed of Depp in an inebriated state. It was almost sadistic. So today I want to walk through the jury's verdict and see if we can reflect about what this says about future defamation cases and maybe what it says about us as a society. A 7-person jury in Fairfax, Virginia ruled on June 1st that Heard defamed Depp on almost every single count by writing that piece in the Washington Post in 2018. The jury awarded Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and another $5 million in his favor. However, the jury also ruled that Depp has to pay $2 million to Heard due to one of Depp's lawyers calling the abuse allegations a hoax. So Depp pretty much got $15 million of his original $50 million suit. Depp's legal team was able to prove that even though Amber Heard never mentioned Johnny Depp's name specifically in her opinion piece in the WashPo, so much similar information was revealed in their prior 2016 divorce proceedings that it could be construed as no other person than Depp. Heard's countersuit was for $100 million, regarding Depp's lawyer telling the media that her abuse allegations were a hoax. So she wound up with 2 out of $100 million. As I mentioned when I covered the trial before, the reason that defamation suits are so tough to win, especially when public figures are involved, is that number one, you have to prove that the claim was false, the false claim. And 2, you have to prove that the defamer possessed actual malice, according to a Supreme Court case in 1964. And honestly, think of the differences in our technology and celebrity culture between 1964 and today. To me, almost anyone who is defaming another person is clearly already demonstrating malice, or they wouldn't do it in the first place. But proving the falsehood can be challenging, because when it comes to abuse, it can be he said, she said. In this case, we did see video footage of Johnny Depp as a bumbling drunk. But as he said quite flippantly, yes, I may have assaulted some cabinets, but I did not assault Miss Heard. This trial aired a lot of dirty laundry, and well, I hate to say it, but I literally mean that. If you don't know, there was a revelation about Amber Heard defecating in Depp's bed as some sort of cruel joke. That information would, let's just say, sully her reputation a bit. But that's on her. And also in a twist of her own narrative, rather than Depp assaulting Heard, it seems that not only did she not have proof of that, but that she admitted to physically hitting Depp. For this reason, perhaps, Depp's lawyer said Heard concocted those abuse allegations. But there was a video in which Heard admits to hitting Depp, but she downplays it because she's a female and acts as though the damage that she could inflict would be minimal. Many lurid details were revealed in this trial, some of which Depp found quite humorous. And in many ways, he maybe had them eating out of his hand as he chuckled and gave these dry, sarcastic answers, while Heard styled her hair a different way every day, and she tried to act maudlin and seemed embarrassed to see her private life revealed to so many people. In their closing arguments, Depp's team asked jurors to give Depp his life back. They argued that Heard had made it impossible for Depp to walk away from the relationship and just decided to just be a thorn in his side and keep punishing him rather than leave. Now, Heard's lawyers said that Depp was mounting a campaign of public humiliation of Heard. Now, most people that I talked to about this, including most women, if not all, were in support of Johnny Depp. They felt that Amber Heard was a psycho, a sociopath. And I wondered whether they were Team Johnny just because they found him charming and attractive, and whether that celebrity factor played into it, or whether they just thought that he was in the right and Heard was in the wrong. It seems to me that most women saw Amber Heard, who is of course the far less famous of the couple, as the evildoer, someone who had actual malice in her heart. And that's quite a different reaction from women than to say like Harvey Weinstein. But if we look at it from another perspective, Johnny Depp got himself into this relationship with Amber Heard. No one forced him to get into it. No one forced him to stay in it. But what is interesting to me is that details of Johnny's childhood came up in this trial, in which he talks about being very neglected and abused by his very own mother, and how that played into his life as an adult and his career as an actor and his relationships. He claims that Heard knew about that abuse and capitalized on it to manipulate him. Usually, in cases like this, you hear about women experiencing this, and the man is the one that's constantly preying upon the woman's insecurities for his own power trip. But in a flip of the roles here, it seems that it was Johnny Depp that had perhaps suppressed his own childhood abuse and allowed his girlfriends, or at least this one, to use that as a weapon. There is some statistic out there that victims of domestic abuse experience it on average of 50 times before getting help for it. I always thought this was a very striking statistic, that people could be abused 50 times or up to 3 years before ever doing anything about it. That shows you that people stay in these relationships even when they know that they are toxic. I think that was clearly the case with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It should teach us all a lesson, a valuable lesson about toxic relationships. And even though Depp had many a quip throughout the trial, you could tell it was still painful for him to make admissions about his own life. But to his credit, being that willing to face the music and to admit your shortcomings to the world, and even more importantly, to yourself, is a magnanimous thing. It shows that you have evolved, that you have a keen self-awareness. Amber Heard showed no self-awareness. It was all denial and dubious accusations. Depp, on the other hand, was willing to admit his drug abuse, his alcohol abuse, his cabinet abuse, but he stopped short of admitting any spousal abuse. Because as screwed up as he was, he knew what he did and what he didn't do. And I think it was that level of honesty that impressed jurors and the public at large. They saw a man humble himself in front of the world because he wanted his life and his livelihood back.